Forget the intro. I'm a dog, and I don't have time for that. Time to dive in. Tier 1, the basic level flex. And yeah, I said basic level, but we're not talking a used Camry here, bro. Jay Leno's garage starts where most people's entire lives end. The man has over 180 cars sitting in a 122,000 square foot facility near Burbank Airport. 180 cars. That's not a collection. That's a personality. Every single one of them runs. Not sitting on stands, not wrapped in a cover collecting dust like your gym membership after February. Actually running. Actually drivable right now. The whole thing is valued somewhere between $80 and $100 million, depending on which accountant you ask and how much coffee they've had. This is where we start, and it only gets more ridiculous from here. Level 1, the steam era. The 1909 Stanley Steamer. Yes, 1909, before your grandfather was born, before anyone reading this was a concept. This thing predates radio being normal, predates highways being a thing, and Jay Leno drives it on Southern California freeways like it's nothing. Takes 20 to 30 minutes just to fire it up. No piston engine, no spark plugs, steam power. The kind of car that almost won the whole internal combustion argument before gasoline locked it in. Worth somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000. And Jay's out here taking it to the gas station neighborhood like some kind of absolute madman with too much garage space and zero fear. Only 9 of these exist on the entire planet. He owns one and he daily drives it. That is level 1 behavior right there. Level 2. The Golden Age. The 1934 Duesenberg Walker Coupe. And if you've never heard of a Duesenberg, that's exactly the point. In the 1930s, if you had to ask what it cost, you weren't the person buying it. Only one of these was ever built. One. Not a limited run, not a special edition, one car, made specifically for a pharmaceutical company boss who wanted something nobody else could have and had the money to make it happen. Aerodynamic design in 1934 was essentially science fiction, and this thing had it. It's currently valued around $20 million, which technically makes it the most expensive car in Jay's whole garage. Inline 8-cylinder engine, coach-built body, one of one. Your sneaker collection thinks it knows what limited means. It doesn't. Level 3. The Jet Age. The 1963 Chrysler Turbine. This is where things get properly strange, and I love it as a dog who appreciates chaos. Chrysler built this thing with an actual gas turbine engine instead of pistons. Same concept you'd find in a jet aircraft. And the wild part is, it could run on almost any flammable liquid, vegetable oil, perfume, tequila, actual tequila in the gas tank. Chrysler was out here solving problems nobody asked for in the most unhinged way possible. Only 9 of these survived. Jay drives his on public roads in Los Angeles, which is either incredibly brave or proof that he has a very good mechanic on speed dial. The Jet Age only lasted one car, but it hit different, and the world was not ready for it. Level 4, the muscle era and the wildest sleeper ever built. Jay took a 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado, which was basically the accountant's choice of the 60s, the car nobody looked at twice, and turned it into a 1,000 horsepower monster. Stock Toronados were front-wheel drive luxury barges. Quiet, soft, slow, the automotive equivalent of a cardigan sweater. Jay's team ripped that whole idea out and rebuilt it as the only rear-wheel drive Toronado in existence, with DNA pulled from a Corvette race car. When this thing was built in the early 2000s, nobody was doing resto-mod work at this level. This car exists in a different category than the original because of what Jay's team chose to turn it into. Most famous Oldsmobile on the planet, probably worth millions at this point. Sleeper of the century. Level 5. Classic European icons. The Lamborghini Miura, and not just one. Jay owns a 1967 and a 1969 Miura, which is the kind of sentence that makes regular car people need a moment to sit down. The Miura is where the word supercar came from. Before this car existed, nobody had a word for what this was because nothing like this had existed before. Mid-engine layout. Absolutely outrageous Italian curves. Jay himself said the 1969 Miura S was the last real era of free design before everything got committees and focus groups and safety regulations telling designers what they couldn't do. He added cooling fans to handle the California heat. He uses one as a daily driver. A Lamborghini Miura as a daily driver. Bro, that's not a flex, that's a religion. Level 5.5, because I'm a dog and I make the rules. Let's talk about the McLaren F1, which is technically Jay's most famous car and the one he calls the best car of the 20th century. 1994, first carbon fiber production car ever made. BMW V12 under the hood. 3 seats, center driving position, 240 miles per hour top speed. Only 106 were ever built. Jay's example was the first one imported to the United States. He bought it for somewhere around $2 to $3 million, and it's now worth somewhere between $18 and $21 million, depending on the day. His is a high mileage example because he actually drives it, which is exactly why it's worth slightly less than the bubble wrap versions other collectors own. He has no regrets. None. He added cooling fans to this one too. California is hot, bro. Level 6, the infrastructure, because this is where Jay's garage separates from every other collection in the world, and I need you to understand this. Anyone with enough money can buy rare cars. That's just arithmetic. But Jay runs a full working shop inside that Burbank facility, with actual coach builders, fabricators, and mechanics who restore these vehicles to mechanical perfection. The waiting list to get work done by his team is so backed up that outside clients can't even get in. These aren't just mechanics. These are people who can rebuild a 1909 steam engine, a 1963 jet turbine, and a modern McLaren in the same week without blinking. This infrastructure is what turns a garage into a living collection instead of a museum. Every car runs because someone works every day to make sure every car runs. Level 6 continued, the financial reality check. And yeah, I'm a dog doing financial commentary. Stay with me. Jay Leno's net worth is around $450 million as of 2026. But here's what makes it interesting. He built most of that without touching his Tonight Show money. 22 years hosting that show, $320 million in career salary, and he lived entirely off his stand-up income the whole time. Banked the television checks, invested them. Cars included. The collection now represents somewhere between $80 and $100 million, depending on who's doing the math. At 75 years old, he still runs 200 stand-up shows per year. He takes care of his wife Mavis, who has dementia. And he drives some of the rarest cars in the world out of a building most small cities couldn't afford to heat. The collection is the result of 50 years of discipline, not a lottery ticket. Level 7, the top floor, the absolute ceiling. And this is where we leave car collecting and enter something else entirely. The 1994 McLaren F1 is the crown jewel, but the collection as a whole at this level represents automotive history you literally cannot access any other way. The 1909 Stanley Steamer is still running. The 1963 Chrysler Turbine still fires up and drives down a public road in Los Angeles. The one-of-one 1934 Duesenberg still exists in the same form it was delivered to a man who needed the world to know he had arrived. Cars at this level aren't just money. They're the last surviving proof that certain ideas, technologies, and eras ever happened at all. This isn't a flex for social media. This is preservation disguised as obsession. Now, the honest take, because that's what I do. Most car collectors at this financial level are buying trophies, locked in climate-controlled rooms, covered with microfiber cloths, never driven, never maintained beyond what's necessary to keep them photographical. Jay Leno runs the opposite philosophy. Everything drives. If it can't drive, his team works until it does. He added cooling fans to his McLaren F1 so he could drive it in California summers without the engine complaining. He modified his Lamborghini Miura so it can handle daily use. He fires up a 1909 steam car and takes it on a highway. This is not normal collector behavior. This is closer to a mechanical rescue operation running 24 hours a day out of a building near an airport in Burbank. And that's what makes the 7 levels actually make sense. Level 1 is the 1909 Steamer, because it's where automotive history begins, and Jay starts there on purpose. Level 2 is the coach-built Golden Age. Level 3 is the experimental jet age that failed and survived anyway. Level 4 is the American muscle era reimagined with modern engineering. Level 5 is European supercar DNA from the birth of the concept. Level 6 is the infrastructure that keeps everything alive. And Level 7 is the whole thing operating together as one working museum that nobody else on Earth could replicate, even with the same money. You could buy the same cars. You could not recreate the same garage. The biggest flex here isn't any single car. Not the F1, not the Duesenberg, not the Mura. The biggest flex is that every single car in that facility was driven last month and will be driven next month by a guy who built this collection one decision at a time over 50 years while living off comedy money and banking everything else. That's not a lucky inheritance. That's not a hedge fund buying up trophies. That's a human being who decided that cars were worth his life's work and then showed up every day to prove it. And also, he never sold a single car for the first 30 years he was collecting. First sale was 2021. Think about that number for a second. If this broke down the 7 levels for you the way it actually works and not the way a brochure would explain it, smash subscribe. I'm a dog who covers cars and money the way they actually function in the real world. No fluff, no cap, just facts. Catch you in the next one.